Student, today I am going to discuss the remaining part which was left in the previous video. We have discussed about the features of Indian economy at the time of independence, industrial sectors, foreign trades. In this video, we will discuss about the first, that is the infrastructure, second demographic conditions, and third the actual conditions at the time of independence. So first I am going to discuss demographic condition during the British rule. So first of all, you should understand what is demographic conditions. So demographic conditions refers a situation in which we discuss about the living of a standard of the people, infant mortality rate, birth rate, death rate, growing populations. So overall we can say it is related to the human conditions. So first of all, just I want to explain that what is life expectancy. Okay, so before that you should know the census. So what is the census? Census is a process in which we count the number of persons, their actual status, to know the conditions of the people or the citizens. In our country, first census was done in the year 1881. From that years continuously in 10 years it is being conducted. Okay, so before 1921 India was in the stage of demographic transitions. Up to 1921 the rate of population growth was not very high. Total population was also not so very high. So if there is no growth rate, it means the number of people will not increase at a faster rate. But after 1921, it has increased at a high speed. It means we can say that 1921 is considered as year of the great divide. Now on that demographic conditions we can discuss the first high birth rate and high death rate. So before discuss it, you should know what is birth rate. So out of 1000 people, how many newly born baby took place in a year is known as birth rate. Like that, out of 1000, how many people lost their life in a year is known as death rate. So at the time of independence, birth rate was nearly 48 per thousand, and in the year 2017 it has decreased, that is the 19 per thousand. Like that, the death rate was nearly 40 per thousand, but according to the data of 2017, nowadays the birth rate is only 7.3. So high birth rate indicates poor health care and backwardness of the country. Like that, infant mortality rate. Infant mortality rate means how many newly born baby lost their life before attending 1 year, and that is known as infant mortality rate. So in the previous At present, previously I told you the health care, the health status of our country was backward or poor. That's why the infant mortality rate was also very high. So out of 1000, nearly 218 people were unable to celebrate their first birthday. Like that, in at present, some development had took place. Due to that, only 40 people or 40 infants nowadays also lose their life. That is according to the data of 2014 and 15. Next is the literacy rate. So literacy rate means what? That is known as a person is capable to write, read and count the number. That is known as literacy rate. Here you can take up to the 7th class. If the people are continued their study, they will come under the literacy rate. So overall literacy level was only 16%, but nowadays we are capable to achieve the literacy rate, that is 76%. So what it indicates? It indicates that at that time very less people were educated. If we discuss about the female literacy rate, at that time it was so poor and it is merely 7%. Next is the life expectancy. Life expectancy refers a situation in which we discuss that after taking the birth, how many years a person can survive their life. So at the time of independence, it was only 44 years, but nowadays we are capable to survive up to 72 years. So it locates lack of general awareness, medical facilities. The life expectancy was very poor at that time, and nowadays some changes has took place. Next is the poor state of health facilities. This is the most important. So health facilities were either unavailable or highly inadequate. Water and airborne disease were widespread. Due to that, the life expectancy, death rate, infant mortality rate, everything was very high. It also indicates that poverty was all around because people had no ability to manage their health, and on that basis we can say poverty prevents in India during the colonial period. The overall standard of living of common people in India was very low. It was due to lack of education, poor health services and discriminatory policy of the British government. Here, why we say the poverty was all around? Because at that time the per capita income of the country was also very low. In this way, we can say that the demographic conditions of India at the time of independence was not up to the mark. Now come to the infrastructure during the British rule. So first of all, what is infrastructure? So infrastructure refers a situation in which we support the economy for further development. Infrastructure may be two types. One is known as social infrastructure and other is known as economic infrastructure. So social infrastructure means health, education, which indirectly support during the production process. Like that, economic infrastructures means transportation, communication, energy, and so on. So in this topic, we will discuss that what was the condition of infrastructure during the British rule. So under the colonial rule, basic infrastructure such as railways, roads, ports, water, transport, etc. were available. Okay, so here we can say the developmental process had already started or done by the colonial government. But think yourself, if the infrastructure was available, then why the conditions of Indian people was very poor? The main reason was that this infrastructure was developed by the colonial period for colonial interest, not for the betterment of people of India. So on that basis, here I am going to discuss regarding the road. So road were constructed for the purpose of mobilizing the army and drawing out raw material from the country. In the previous video, I have discussed that India was the exporter of raw material and the importer of final goods. So these roads were constructed only to supply the raw material from India to other countries or Great Britain. So most of the road was connected with railway stations and ports. So what it indicates? It indicates that the railway was capable to carry huge amount of raw materials up to ports, and ports was ready to export these raw materials. So even during the rainy season, the rural people suffered badly lack of weather roads. So here weather roads means what? The road was no doubt constructed, but it was kacha, it was not melted. And due to that, during rainy season, to travel from one place to another place, it was very difficult. So this is the condition of, this was the condition of road. Now come to the railways. It was introduced in the year 1850. It enables people to travel long distance. So it broke geographical and cultural barriers. That was the most important, and I think it is my personal view that it helped to integrate our nation, because as we know that India is divided into so many parts. Sometimes we say that is the eastern part, that is the western part, that is the northern part, that is the southern part, northeast part, northwest part. Okay, so in this situation, when the railway was introduced, it helped to create a national integration among the Indian people. It also enhanced commercialization of Indian agriculture, which adversely affected the comparative self-sufficiency. Why we say that it adversely affected? Because the farmers who were engaged in the production of food grains, now they have started to produce cash crops. So for that, the government provided, colonial government provided some capital, but they suffers from food grains. They were totally dependent on the Britishers. Next is the air and water transport. It was also developed by the British government, but it was far from satisfactory. Why we say it was far from satisfactory? Because these water transport and air transport was being utilized by the Britishers for their self work. Now come to the questions, or you can say on the basis of infrastructure, explain the reason for infrastructural development by the British rule. So here I have taken some negative points. There were no doubt some positive points were also available, but I am going to here discuss why the colonial government developed infrastructure. So the main reason to develop infrastructure was to serve colonial interest. How we can say it was developed the for the development of Great Britain, or that was the colonial interest? First, to make huge profit by linking railways with major Indian ports, because it helped to carry the raw material from our country to their own country, and it also, in a single word we can say, it helped in the wealth drain. To invest British fund in India so that they can earn maximum profit. Roadways were constructed for the purpose of mobilizing the army and drawing out raw material from the countryside. Telegraph was also developed only to maintain law and order in the country. It was developed to serve various selfish interest of the British government. So in this way we can say the following points indicates that the infrastructure was developed for self interest. Okay, and I think it will help you to give the answer from this chapter, and this is the last video for this chapter. So the whole chapter is divided into two videos, and I tried my level best to explain this, and hope so you will also be able to understand this topic. So to make your answer perfect, you must go through the book so that you can explain it in a better way. Thank you, my dear students.